Welcome to Berkshire Outdoors. Coming to you today from Kennedy Park, where we're doing a little bit of snowshoeing. I'm Jay Baver, and on today's show we're going to go over some of the basics of snowshoeing and also go on a full moon snowshoe hike. To start things off, we're going to join one of the pros from the Arcadian shop in Lenox and go over some of the basics if you want to get into snowshoeing. So let's go find Jeff Minkler from the Arcadian shop. Hey, Jeff.
How's it going, Jay?
Good, good.
Man, these conditions are amazing today, aren't they?
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we having an incredible winter or what?
It's been beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Great snow, great conditions for a variety of winter sports. Jeff, now, the Arcadian shop has something they do. It's a tradition, 3 times a winter, full moon snowshoe hikes. And if somebody wanted to go on one of those hikes and they were a beginner, what are some of the things that they would need to think about, or, you know, as far as clothing and layering and the snowshoes? Can you go over some of those basics?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to, Jay. Actually, one of the big things that has to do with snowshoeing really is clothing and layering. The rule of thumb is to always layer and to clothe yourself for about 20 degrees above the air temperature. Underneath all of this, you'll find that I'm wearing an ibex wool base layer. That's right up next to the skin. Its job is basically just to get moisture away from the body. The second layer generally is some sort of insulation. Today I've got a Patagonia vest on. It's a synthetic vest. I tend to prefer vests over long sleeves. You just have a little bit more freedom of movement, and then once you get the shell layer off, which is the outside layer, you can cool off very quickly if you need to. On your feet, the feet are the most challenging part because people have a bunch of different temperature ranges that they work at. People's furnaces are all over the place. For most people, you can get away with your lightweight hikers inside of snowshoes. The stiffer the sole is, the easier it is to get into and out of the binding, and the more secure the binding is. So grab a pair of lightweight hikers. If they're waterproof, that would be great. Slightly higher top. That provides a little bit of lateral stability on the snowshoes, so you're not going to roll. And then just get the snowshoes on and go. Over top of your boots, you want to put a pair of gaiters. Gaiters are just a very high nylon sleeve that goes basically from the laces all the way up to the knees. That keeps snow from coming in over the top. And lastly, especially for your feet, you have to have your base layer, just like your top. So you want to go with some sort of synthetic or a wool sock. That'll draw the moisture away, keep you a little bit warm, and if it does get wet, it'll retain its insulative ability.
Let's talk about snowshoes.
Sure, absolutely.
Snowshoes have come a long ways. You walk into a shop now and snowshoes look nothing like they did even 30, 20 years ago.
Sure.
Now, how many basic types of snowshoes are out there right now, Jeff?
Sure. And those snowshoes fall into 2 different categories, and it has to do with the binding that goes on to the snowshoe itself. The first type is what's called an axle binding. With an axle binding, the snowshoe will lay flat. There's an axle that will run through the binding system, and it free floats around the snowshoe. It's a very, very stable binding. It'll tend to drag along the snow a little bit. For people who are a little bit more recreational, it seems to be the one they really like. There's a binding that's called out there, it's called a band binding or a double band binding. The band binding allows for movement, however, it's not a free floating movement. There's a bit of resistance. So as the binding comes up off of the snowshoe, all of a sudden now the snowshoe is carried along with it. The one I have on my foot right now, it's a double band binding.
Double band, okay, yep. Cool. Now, the other thing we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going on one of those full moon snowshoe hikes. Jeff, tell me a little bit, if somebody wants to come out and do that, what happens on a full moon hike?
Well, number one, there's a lot of fun that happens, and that's the reason to come. I mean, everybody that comes has a great attitude. It lasts about an hour and a half or so. We cover
How far do you go?
Approximately 3 miles.
Okay.
However, that is pretty variable on the groups.
Okay.
Because people come, and I think this, we're going to have about 80 to 100 people probably
Wow.
at this one coming up. So we basically divide the groups up into 3 different areas. There's the sick, fit, super aerobic people.
Is that the extreme group?
They wouldn't self-define that way, but they probably
Okay.
are. They're going to go out, and usually they go with our mechanic, Kenny.
Okay.
And Kenny is an aerobic animal. So basically, they just go out, they put the hammer down, and the focus there is primarily the workout.
Okay.
So, you know, we do stop to look at the views a little bit. However, you're breathing so hard, you can't really appreciate them a lot, you know.
Now, how about beginners? Do you have a beginner group?
We do. We divide it up into 2 more groups. So there's the intermediates and then the beginners.
All right.
The intermediates, we're going to be moving along. The focus is a little bit more on appreciation of nature and just getting out and having a good time. The beginner groups, we actually adjust a little bit. We have people that are at the beginning and the end, so you'll never be left alone out on our snowshoe hikes. And actually, all of our staff members show up to that too. So if you happen to blow a binding, if you
Somebody
get cold,
there help you out.
exactly,
Cool.
exactly. And the beginners generally don't cover the full 3 miles. Sometimes if that group is really large, we'll divide that up into 2. And people sort of self-slot into these different groups.
Cool.
I think most of you have seen it, but the moon is rising off in the east. You look over there, you can see it behind some clouds. We're not at the highest point in Kennedy Park, but we're close to it. It's all of 1,600 feet above sea level. It's not, you know, but so the air is thin up here. So,
We need oxygen.
are we all here?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to be bearing left. This is where the deer usually settle at night, and then we'll go a short distance, and I'm going to have everybody spread out, and we're going to kind of break trail for a bit, just for a short distance, because I want to make sure you all get in deeper snow to see how your snowshoes work. Okay? So why don't we head off? This is why there's more snowshoeing days than ski days, because you can always go off in the woods and find something. If it's really icy trails, you can always find some really decent snow. Another really nice thing about snowshoeing is you can go into wetland areas in the wintertime. You know, it's frozen. You usually can't get there at all during the warmer months, and so Kennedy Park has expanded its trail system. It goes across West Dugway. And there's a whole new trail system there. There's some wetland areas you can get in. There's some beaver huts and so on. And you know, during the daytime, I'd recommend another nice place to go snowshoeing. Okay, so this group, you seem really good. If you want, we can go to the highest point in Kennedy Park right now. It's really close, or we can kind of circle back in. So what?
It's all downhill from there.
Thanks for joining us on our snowshoe adventure today. If you'd like to learn more about snowshoeing and get into the sport, stop in and see my friends at the Arcadian shop, and you can see how to do that at their website at arcadian.com. Thanks for watching today's show. The next time I see you, I hope it's in our wild and beautiful Berkshire outdoors.